Hey friends, this is Jess with Virtually Visual. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and if you're coming back, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you a shorter but really cool tutorial showing you how I've done these like orb renders. I have a couple of these actually, but I started way back doing this before the rigid body simulation settings got updated in Cinema 4D. So but yeah, this will be easier now that we have the updated system. It's going to be really fun, really easy. This is a good one for beginners, especially if like you've watched any of my other tutorials and maybe stuff is a little bit intimidating yet to try. This one is a little bit more simple. So these images here, the first one, the close-up shot, took probably a half hour, maybe a little bit more, just because it was pretty high res and I had the motion blur enabled, as well as things like subsurface and some glass materials. So just keep that stuff in mind as you are setting up your scene. We're going to start off like we normally do with a backdrop, and then I'm also going to pull in a figure shape just so that we get a good picture of scale and layout for our objects here. And then we're just going to pull in a sphere, because we're going to be putting some smaller spheres inside of this. This will be our main like bubble shape. I just set the radius to 50 exactly. Then we are going to create a glass material just to make this easy to see through so that we know where we're placing our particles inside. We're just going to call this glass, and then we're going to take the transmission all the way up to 1, and then we'll drag that material onto our sphere. Oh, also set roughness to 0. But yeah, put that on your sphere. And then we'll go in and we'll set the sphere itself to be a icosahedron, and we'll up the segments, set it to I think 55. And then, and to view the lines too, you just hit N on your keyboard and then B. And now we're going to pull in another sphere, and we're going to set this to be very small. We're going to actually, I think, set the radius to 1, or maybe 2 even. Yeah, I think I left it at 2. And then we're going to drag that sphere into a cloner and keep it on grid, but change the shape to, or the form to sphere, and then drag that to the center of your bubble shape. And then obviously scale this down until it fits inside of the larger sphere. Then it's just a matter of increasing the count and playing around continuously with the size you have set for the cloner until you get it to where you're happy with it. The more you have, obviously, the heavier it will be on your computer, so keep that in mind. But I think I ended up with something about like this. Actually, maybe I upped it to 15. So upped it to 15 and then took the size down to 5. Then it's a matter of the actual simulation. So I'm going to add the cloth tag onto our bubble sphere. And we're going to add the rigid body simulation tag to our cloner. And we'll set the collision radius, or thickness, down to 0.2. And then for the cloth, we'll set that down to 0.5. And bendiness to 500, as well as the stretchiness to 100. We'll also keyframe the target length at 100 here, and then we'll go to frame 30, and we'll set that down to 80%. Keyframe that. And then we're also going to need to hit Command or Control D on your keyboard, go to the Scene tab in Simulation and turn off Gravity. And then let's simulate some turbulence so that we actually have some movement affecting our sphere. The target length, by the way, that we changed and keyframed on the sphere will just shrink the overall shape, so it'll hug those particles like this. So as you can see, right off the bat, we're only a few minutes in and we've got a really incredible simulation. This is essentially just the basic of the whole project, really. When I did it initially, because the rigid body simulation was a whole different system, I don't even remember if I used rigid body or if I tried to use some soft body shapes that were not very bendy. But yeah, it's become much easier to do this kind of thing. But I also added some rotation, as you can see, just the simulate forces and then rotation. And then here you see I have it set at 40, but that wasn't enough, so I tried 100, and I think I ended up settling on 80 since 100 felt a little bit like too much. Oh, and I also forgot to mention it, but you probably saw that I extended my frames to be 300 instead of 90. And then once you're kind of happy with how everything looks, we're just going to cache the simulation. So we're going to go up to our cloth tag on the main sphere, and we're just going to clear our cache to be safe, and then hit cache scene. And then you just wait for this to load. And for me, this is real time right here, so it's pretty fast. I have two NVIDIA 3060 Ti graphics cards that are 8 gigabytes, I believe. So it runs pretty fast on my system, but it will depend on your own specs and if you're using a PC or a Mac or whatever. So that was really quick. That's done, and now we can just click to any frame we want and it will have all that data ready to go. We add our redshift camera and our dome light, and I'm going to go into the HDRI settings in the asset browser and go into the legacy folder actually. And I like to use this Kino one. I just set the focal length in my redshift camera to 120, and then I'm zooming in here. We're also going to change our render settings. I have it 2500 by 3000. And then the threshold samples are set to 0.1, and we have denoising on. And in system, I have the memory turned down to 60, which is really important. I would do that to speed up your renders. And then make sure that brute force is on for the global illumination. Go to your redshift IPR, drag that where you want, and hit play. And already, like off the bat, even though everything's white, I think it still looks pretty cool. It's amazing what a good HDRI can do for your whole scene. So now we're going in and we're making a new standard material. And we're going to call this orbs, and this is going to be for our cloner particles. And then I'm going to drag this window over. The only thing, there's a couple things I pull in here. It's just the color user data node and then a ramp that it plugs into. And you'll see that here. And then you'll just drag color user data into alt input for the ramp, and then plug the ramp into your color. And nothing will happen by default because you gotta go to presets and then objects and geometry ID color. And now things will be using the ramp to color each particle object. But we can just go down and load a preset. I have some made here that I put together from some color palettes I made in colors or coolers.co, the really fun website that generates color palettes. So I was just experimenting here with some different ones. But I think I ended up actually going with one of the default presets that Cinema 4D has set up in here. And I chose, I think, a flame one, but again, this part's totally up to you. Yeah, so I ended up choosing flame 5, and I really liked how soft and kind of gentle this looked on the different orbs that were in the bubble shape. So, and I think usually I like to change my glass materials a little bit, like the bubble itself, but I didn't here. Also, don't forget to plug your color into the color value for subsurface, and this way we can up that value and we will still have our colors, but they'll be slightly affected by whatever the radius is here. So as you can see, the overall color got slightly washed out, and that just is how the light is affecting those spheres. I ended up going in and adding the coat. With the coat and the reflection values, I end up later going in and playing with the IQR so that we have almost this real bubble look inside the main shape, where the edges of each particle looked a little bit shiny or metallic almost. So this part's totally custom. You can choose what you want to do with your particles. I'll show you, I'll speed this through probably and show you those settings, but yeah, it's totally up to you. And as a final step, I added motion blur to this scene. So make sure you go in and you enable motion blur itself and turn on deformation blur. And then I set the time to 20 and the deformation steps to 3. Then it's just a matter of rendering it all out. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. You can always reach out to me on social media as well. I have some links in the description. But yeah, that's it for today. I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.